first cow. There was a pail of warm water there, but they did tell me I was supposed to put the milkers
One of the first
in the
things.
warm water first before I put them on. I reached my
He
hand
just
through the
texted
railing,
still in my
First two
and
things is
that
him.
first cow.
Should I
just
tell him
about
to leave?
killed me.
Jimmy Johnson. So.
It slammed me against the
Tell him to
railing and
leave?
everything. They're all standing there, 3 guys standing there, laughing their heads off.
Or
Oh,
you
we
can
forgot
just
to tell you,
ask
go
him where his
warm up the
loyalties lie.
You can text Scott, but that won't do any good.
He just texted me.
Oh, he
What?
did?
So I'm assuming it'd do some good.
He just,
You know, I've
he
known
said
him-
one word, leave.
I've known him for a long time. He's texted me once.
Well, I've known him since the '60s. So.
Oh, you got me beat there. I didn't know he even could text or would text until a few days ago. Well, a few weeks ago. And he's still not good at it. You have to call and tell him that you're gonna send him a text. And then if you can get hold of him and talk to him and tell him you're sending it, then he's good.
Then he'll sit and wait for it.
Yeah. But don't leave a voicemail either. Because that's.
That's so funny.
Does he still have that? Does he still have that message on there?
I can't hear my phone, is what he said.
No.
What does he say again? This is Scott.
Are you up in line?
Goodbye. Or something.
I don't know how to mute everybody.
He's got to find
No.
Let me go.
Yeah, you say,
Answering
feel free to
machine.
leave a message, but you need to know I do not check these and
Yeah.
won't return it.
Well, I've left him a couple messages.
that message.
Under.
Yeah,
I don't leave that message.
Oh,
I've left Scott messages.
I try to return them.
Somebody left me a message. I heard a message like,
Host controls.
you can leave me a message.
Turn host controls on.
Doesn't return them.
But keep in mind, I
Well, at
don't
least you're
check.
honest.
Mine used
allowed to.
to say when, my answering machine, I'd just say, hello. What are you doing? And people would have full on conversations with the answering machine.
sports.
I have, I don't know why it is, I'm on somebody's list when I get all these scam phone calls. And so I know that it's a scam because they call me 5 or 6
When
times.
people
Yeah.
So what is it, Lieutenant something, click, I hang up.
I've got one of them that's calling me every day from different numbers. I'll
Well-
block them and they'll call me from a different
There's
number.
one out of Clearfield that calls back, they have 7 different numbers, and they rotate those same numbers.
What do you want to do here?
It's horrible.
You send anything back?
Not yet.
He won't.
We can skip the first 2 items if you're ready to talk about B.
Short conversations on some of these, but sure.
Yeah, it is gonna be short on a lot of these. Okay, well, we'll get started and then switch things around when he gets here. All right, meeting will come to order. We'll do a quick roll call. Terry Minor.
Here.
Gil Martin.
Here.
Jess Bird is here. Craig Smith.
Here. Do we want to get the other recorder?
Yeah. Sorry, gotta grab our
Sorry.
backup recorder here.
Sorry, I didn't think of that sooner.
Oh, it's all right. Sorry, I didn't think of it. Never hurts to have a backup. All right, continue with our roll call. Scott Dubé is currently tied up in the Council of Governments meeting. We'll excuse him for a few minutes. We expect him to come here shortly. He does have the first couple of items on our agenda, so we'll just move those down for when he gets here. All right, we'll go ahead and have our pledge. I'll lead us in.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we'll skip on over to item, under committee assignments, report and discussion, we'll skip on over to item B, which is police. And we'll ask Councilman Smith to report on that.
Debbie not coming then?
We're gonna assume she's late until Scott says otherwise.
All right, as far as the police contracts go, there has not been a lot of change in where we've been. The county council has made a committee to deal with us and all of our contracts, which is Ty Hoffman and Jared Hamner. So all of these contracts,
And the manager, Andy, whatever his name is.
yeah, all these, yeah, and Andy, who's the county manager, all of our contracts, and we'll go through them. So, my next step here is to meet with Andy and then get this moving forward with the councilmen that are over this.
All right. Scott, welcome.
Thank you. As you know, I've been to another meeting by assignment.
We're gonna give you an opportunity to share what you learned there tonight.
Okay.
But not yet. We kinda had on our first item of business here, comments from Debbie Johnson. Do you know if she's planning to come?
Yeah, she called me late this afternoon and she can't come. She wants to come next week. I told her we'd take her whenever she can come.
Great. And do you want a minute to get caught up, or do you want to take over? Well, and I could start with Mr. Minor over there, but item A, roads.
Yeah, Terry knows more about this than I do.
All right.
Well, it just comes down with everything else is that Scott and I went to the council meeting, was it Tuesday? And so we kind of said we were looking for some help financially. So in essence, they set up a committee that's the Andy, the city manager, Ty Hoffman, and Erda Hamner. And so I think we're gonna be try to schedule like next week, I think, or next Thursday. They want to try to meet on Thursdays. And then we'll sit down and officially go over, because the city council or the county council still has to approve anything that we set up individually with the roads and everything else. They still have to buy off on it, so.
Have we told this council what your discussion was though with the county road department?
About the.
Yes.
That they're willing to
Right.
keep maintaining the roads just like they've been doing as long as we continue to keep funding the same amount of taxes that have been
The
going
only
to
other
them.
thing is we want to add that shoulder work in the weeds in that same contract.
We got quite a bit of shouldering in Erda, especially on Erda Way.
But he doesn't do it by like an amount, it's like a days. It's like so many days his crew is in Erda, and I think he was 6 days of the year or something like that, that his guys are there, so.
Okay, anything else to report on the roads or comments or bad jokes? Okay. All right, we'll move on. We've gone to item B. Let's go to item C, ordinance adoption. That's Smith and Martin.
You wanna start?
Yeah, for me, nothing new with this, just the same as about last time. I've been really focused on, me and Jess have been really focused on getting our map in and the paperwork needed to the lieutenant governor. So nothing new for me on this one.
I have talked, from our discussion last time, I think most of us agree that probably moving forward with the Twilla County ordinance with some major modifications to come and deleting major chapters is probably our best option. I've talked with the county about it. They are changing everything in their format over to Word. Right now, it's in 2 different titles and chapters that don't really match. They are formatting all that together in one Word document, which would make it easy for us to search
All
and
the
modify
link-
and
All the
change.
links would work.
Yes, everything would come in. They are doing that in process for the county. It's gonna be a couple weeks before they get that finished, but they are going to send a rough draft as soon as they have it, so we can start looking at it and making any modifications that we want to on it also.
That'd be good.
Concern with something like that would be they send us a rough draft, maybe lacking some of the work we might enjoy having them have done.
Well, they'll send us the final one too.
But if we modify ours, now we've got to merge changes. So maybe we keep that straight is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on that?
Not anything other than before we get our certificate and everything done, I think it's important that we have ordinance in place. And I don't care if it's the meeting before we have our incorporation complete. I think we ought to have our ordinances in place so we can't be taken advantage of on land use or anything else.
I think we still had some questions on that R110, didn't we? About having that or not.
Yeah, and we can talk about that in zoning and land use in just a minute.
But I agree with what Craig says. If we end up taking over as an incorporated city and we don't have ordinances, then anything that's going on in Erda could theoretically, with a tricky lawyer, be grandfathered in to stay. Because it was there before we had ordinance. And so you can't have an ordinance that comes in after the fact and moves and changes some use that's going on. So I totally agree that we've got to have that in place.
So are you calling out for an all-out adoption of the county ordinances?
Anything that we don't have time to organize and write our own ordinance on, yeah, I think we do. I don't know if we have that kind of time. I don't know how soon we're gonna be a city.
There's all-out chapters and titles that we can scratch easily. The radioactive hazardous waste title for the West Desert. We can scratch that title. We don't need it.
We don't.
There's some that are obvious that we don't need to bring in. Traffic ordinance is something that we probably need to have done. You can't write a speeding ticket in Erda City or have someone fall in an accident if there's no ordinance saying you can't speed. As stupid as it is. So yeah, I think we'll have to adopt them wholly in chapters and titles, and then our job will be to go back and start changing them at Erda, because a lot of it won't fit Erda.
I'm also saying that some of them ones that we may not like, we can change before we adopt the whole county deal, say.
If we have
we can pick,
If we have time.
we have time.
We can make some of those
instead of
changes.
just blanket do everything and knowing that there's a couple that we need to
Yeah.
work
We
on.
need
I
to
don't
make
wanna
sure everything's
have
out.
that come over and then
Doesn't
have
need
to
be
try to do it down the road.
I think we would adopt county ordinance with the understanding that changes will be coming shortly as we have time to work on.
And the changes we make, like the major modifications, we should do with legal counsel. Because
Correct.
that definitely is an attorney's job. You know, otherwise you're opening yourself up for trouble.
That's all I had on that.
Okay,
Yeah, same.
any other comments? All right. We do have an update on articles of incorporation, map, and retirement letter. I'll let Councilman Martin lead off if you want to, otherwise I can take it.
Yeah, why don't you tell them about what we've done today?
Okay, well, we had a fun, it felt like a field trip.
Yeah, it did.
To the Capitol building.
Pretty cool deal.
It was neat. There was a choir and a piano there in the middle, and We wandered around for 15 minutes
Just for
wondering
you guys?
where to go. Yeah,
Right.
just for us. It was magical. We eventually found the door. We were to go in by appointment only, and so we called our contact, Olivia Hodge, the contact that Councilman Martin had made, and she was expecting us and sat us right down, and we had a good, positive meeting. We did turn over all of the materials that we discussed last night, along with a hard copy, which was the copy of the boundary and final entity plat map. I would expect to hear soon, tomorrow or soon thereafter, what their response will be, being that it's not the final or the original map or the approved map. So yeah, we're just kind of waiting to hear back. Did I miss anything?
Oh, just waiting on the map.
Okay, that's kind of been the story of our lives.
Yeah.
Okay, any comments or anything to add? Anybody?
How did she seem?
She's so nice.
Yeah, very
Much-
nice person.
Much nicer person than me, like, way nicer.
And she seemed optimistic about what you were handing her and.
Yes, very, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I wish I could tell you more, but I don't know, my mind's drawing a blank.
Yeah, no, it seems like they're going to be good to work with, and I left that meeting with really good feelings about the future. So
Her parting thoughts for us were, if you have any suggestions to change state code to make this process easier for future city and corporations, please let us know. Now we did not ask that, she offered that. Okay, moving on to item E, IT, Martin and Bird. About the only thing I have to add there is that I've added a recorder email address. What that allows us to do is our temporary recorder over there, Corey Warnick, the ability to have an email account that's grandma searchable, way to communicate with us and send minutes back and forth, do revisions, and also have access to the meetings folder in Google Drive, so that he can help with the agendas and submit and make the changes to the minutes there. So far it's been working really well. Craig, do you have anything to add there?
Well, I probably used Corey's personal email rather than his official one today.
Because you were responding to one that I'd sent from that before this was set up.
But no, this is something that we definitely need. We need to have. It's not just for Corey. In 2 years when he leaves us, it'll go to our new recorder. It'll just be our recorder's email, and it's something that we're going to need anyway. So let's get it and get it done.
Okay, that's about all I had to add there. Any comments or? Okay, item F, attorney, which is Drew Bay and Minor.
Yeah, we need one.
Yes, we do.
So as you know, we have 4 applicants right now. And
Can you remind us their names if it's not too
yeah,
difficult?
so we have Janet Conway, we have Scott Shields, and then we have 2 firms that are municipal attorney firms. We have Blaisdell Church and Johnson. They're in Salt Lake City, and we have Hayes, Godfrey, and Bell, and they're also in Salt Lake City. And they've actually sent us pretty extensive proposals or resumes. So Terry and I feel like we have pretty good options here. As long as we're agreed that we don't need to advertise this. Are we gonna get in some kind of a bind if we don't advertise this? And that I don't
That
know.
would be
I
a good
thought,
answer for legal counsel, or question for
thought-
legal counsel.
I thought we would get into a bind if we didn't advertise it. But last night you didn't maybe think so?
I don't think right now we have any statute, ordinance, or resolution as to what our policy for procuring bids, equipment, anything is.
Yeah.
We haven't officially set anything that way, so
We'd be relying on any state or federal laws. I don't know what those.
So what if we did this? What if we hired one of these and then asked them that question?
We'll just ask them all and see who gives us the best answer.
See who gives us the answer we want?
Have you contacted the League of Cities and Towns on that?
Yep. Yeah, I have.
What
In fact, Hayes, Godfrey, and Bell, Godfrey is legal counsel for the League of Cities and Towns.
Did you
But
ask?
I didn't ask them that question,
Okay.
no. No. Do you want me to do that before we do anything more?
It's our understanding that an RFP process takes 2 months.
That's what we heard last night.
45 days minimum.
yeah, 45 days advertising minimum. And that's what I've heard through the process. You're looking at sometimes 3-4 months to do an RFP. I don't think we can wait 3 or 4 months to get an attorney. I don't see how that's gonna work.
So we could do it this way. We could pick the best choice here and call them to talk to them about their services and tell them we're thinking of hiring them, we're favoring them. Do we have to advertise this before we hire you? And if they say probably not, then we're in business and we've got legal counsel.
And if they do, it's pre-selection and we're in trouble.
I think it has to be advertised and discussed in an open public meeting, but I don't know if it has to be advertised for competitive bid.
Okay? That makes sense to me.
But once again, we might have to ask an attorney.
You and Terry wanna work on your recommendations for next meeting and, give us some.
I can give you my recommendation.
Okay.
Blaisdell Church and Johnson.
Okay.
And here's my reasoning. So first off, we have two firms that have multiple attorneys. And so they have different attorneys that have different areas of expertise. So if we're working on just zoning, they'll send their lawyer to our meeting that's an expert on zoning. If we're working on ordinance, they'll send that lawyer. So we have more option than we're not just hiring one lawyer.
And in their proposal that these different lawyers are billing at the same rate?
Yeah, it's all the same, because
Theirs is 150 an hour.
no, do you mean all the same of all the different lawyers?
No, I just meant within that
Yeah.
firm, if we were to hire.
Yeah, yep, they have their rates, and their rate is actually a little bit better than most of them.
Well, it fluctuates on what they're doing though. Like
It does.
It was higher if it was doing bond work.
It does. The reason that I would propose Blaisdell Church and Johnson over Hayes and Godfrey and Bell is because Hayes and Godfrey does not do any litigation. If for some reason, which we're not planning on, we need somebody to go to trial or defend us in court, with Hayes and Bell, we have to hire a different lawyer. But Blaisdell Church and Johnson have a lawyer in their team that does that.
At
So,
the same or different rate?
well, it's a little bit more,
No, that was the same rate, wasn't it?
I thought it was more.
I thought it was 300 for bonding, but the rest of them were all
Oh,
150.
is that what's more? I know one of them,
Yeah,
I don't know
Was
what
more.
bonding is.
bonding's a money issue if we were to put out bonds for a road project or something like that.
But that was another one of the options, was hiring a municipality, and then if we needed to do litigation, we could hire a litigator, cause there's a lot of good ones out there too.
and that's true. And if we're gonna do that, then my preference would be Hayes, Godfrey, and Bell. But it seems like Blaisdell Church and Johnson covers a broader spectrum, and their rates are actually a little bit better. One of the things that surprised me in their proposal was they're not gonna charge us travel time to come from Salt Lake to Tooele to our meetings. And that typically will save us about $300, somewhere between $200 and $300 every time we have a meeting.
They also have a subscription to a law library that they throw in for free, which I thought was a pretty nice bonus, that we don't have to pay to have an attorney go look things up. They have this subscription that they put in there for free. And I thought that was a pretty nice bonus that they put in there also.
Is that pretty standard or pretty
Well, and they also
just for these guys?
said they don't do conflicts of interest because they only represent public bodies and would not have any conflicts with anything else, so.
They were the only ones that mentioned having that in there
All right.
that I saw.
Curious. Anybody here in the audience, Mr. Recorder, anybody know what one of these law library subscriptions costs?
Yeah, we're asking.
I'm asking. If anybody comes up with an answer, please interrupt us. I'm sorry? I guess.
Why not?
What do you wanna know? I'm good at Googling.
So let me tell you one other thing that sticks in my mind. As we talk to people that we think could help us as legal counsel, there were a few that said, no, I'm not a municipal lawyer or something like that. And this one was recommended by other lawyers, as was this one. This is the one that I'm talking about favoring. In fact,
Which two are you holding up, Scott?
the two law firms.
Blaisdell Church and Hayes Godfrey.
Yeah,
Church is no longer there.
And church is retiring.
Church is retiring.
okay. And the Johnson was actually referred to by another municipal lawyer as the guy he goes to when he has a question. So this is, my impressions are supported by municipal lawyers and other lawyers that know these folks.
I think we ought to move this forward into our business meeting to hire an attorney and finish this up next week, but we'll need to get that posted, that agenda posted first thing in the morning with that on it, and we can amend it, but we should move towards that, and we can discuss more between now and then and get more information. But if we want to hire somebody and hire them relatively soon, that would have to be done in a business meeting. If we don't do it next week, it'll be 3 weeks. So I think we ought to,
How's our attorney?
Why would it be 3 weeks?
that's when our next business meeting will be.
Don't we determine that? We can call a business.
We could
meeting.
call it.
We could call an emergency one, as long as we noticed it a week beforehand.
But the 2 weeks from now, it's gonna be tough for me to be here.
I think the plan was the 23rd is when we was gonna put out a name.
Yeah, and so that'll be next week. I'm just saying we need to get that agenda
Yeah.
out with that on there. So there's 7 days notice.
Yes.
Okay,
And there are a lot of different libraries available. The two that are most talked about are Westlaw and Lexis Advance.
sounds familiar.
Westlaw, does billing $99 per search. Lexis Advance says clients may be charged $60 per search.
I believe that,
Yours is Lexus.
I thought it was Westlaw. Scott's
Does
got
it say in here?
According to
He's
their,
either way.
on their paper, it's Lexus.
Oh, okay, so it's Lexus.
There's a few through a couple of the accredited law schools, like Cornell, give you a yearly subscription for about $5,000.
Use some of those for my business as well, and you can do those per search or a monthly unlimited fee. Our unlimited fee is around $1,000 a month for what we get.
Yeah, and so they throw that in for free.
Unlimited?
Yes.
Says we have a subscription to the Lexis Electronic Legal Library. We do not charge clients a fee for electronic research.
I rest my case.
Okay, so we're moving that to our business meeting, and I'll have an agenda out tomorrow morning.
A week from tonight.
We won't quite have a full 7 days, but, okay. Terry, you okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, anything else on attorney? Okay. On the garbage, Martin and Smith.
This one will be real quick and easy. Everybody's out until December 19th, so we haven't been able to talk to anybody, seeing as every company seems to be on vacation right now.
And then when they do get back, one thing we need to focus on is a garbage can count. And get that to Ace and then hopefully get a bid from them and
Yeah,
make our decisions.
so I'll get with, my mind on horrible names anyway, the county guy.
Yep.
He'll be back on the 19th. I'll call him in the morning, 19th, and set up an appointment for us to go see him.
Perfect, that'd be awesome.
And in that, we're just kind of talking about staying on the county plan, the way it's been, right?
But we have two options that we've seen so far that seem like they'd work, Ace Disposal
Right.
or the county.
That's one, but the one with the county, we would just stay on the county contract essentially.
That's what we're hoping for. We would really like to do kind of what Rush Valley does at this point.
Okay. Anything else on garbage? Land use and zoning, that's Bird and Smith.
All right, I had a map populated that I sent to all of us. It had some mistakes, some problems with it, things that were not updated. So I went back to the county and went to the engineering department to talk about what is actually zoned where and make this map accurate. And they have said, oh, it slipped through the cracks. We haven't updated Erda in a while. They were gonna have Erda updated by Friday. And so I'll have new maps made, and I'll send those out to everyone where we can see what the current zoning is in Erda.
Will you ask for an electronic copy and blast that out to us?
Yes, I will send it in electronic copy to all of us, and then I'll have a large map made and some small ones for each of us too.
Okay, great.
Is it because these are recent changes that the map changed?
It will be updated, no, well,
'Cause why wouldn't it have the most up to date already? Like what changed? It's not
because
accurate.
someone hasn't gone in and changed it in the formatting of the computer. So the map that I sent, there is a triangle piece of R110 down by Stansbury Park, 22-acre parcel that wasn't on there.
That's just a recent one. That was the one.
That was done 3 or 4 months ago.
About the Walters one.
Yeah, there were some big chunks of R110 on that map that are not R110. So they're fixing, modifying, bringing everything back to current zoning, so we can see what all the current zoning is and work our way forward from there. This zoning, I feel, is much like the ordinance. I think we need to have zoning adopted and in place before the incorporation is actually finalized, because I don't wanna be caught with no zoning and give anyone a loophole on changing something because there was no zoning in place. I'd like to have it all done at day one.
Yeah, and I pretty much agree with that, only like to have some kind of breathing time moratorium, whatever you wanna call it, to get our general plan in place before we do any zone changes.
I did talk on that with a couple of different people, and everyone seems to agree that a 6-month moratorium would be a good idea. It's legal, you can do up to a 6-month moratorium as long as we have reason. Creating a general plan is a perfect reason to have a moratorium on all zoning change. So we can adopt the zoning as is, or make any changes we desire at the time when we adopt it, like putting some commercial on the highway. But then we can do a moratorium for 6 months while we get a general plan done, while we get our planning commission in place. And that's not something that really even could be challenged, as long as we have a reason, a legitimate reason for having a moratorium. And those are legitimate reasons for moratorium.
Can we vote on both of those in the same motion?
We certainly
Depends
could.
on how the motion is made.
Yeah.
See the wheels turning over there.
Yeah. Once in a while.
Thought I smelled smoke.
You got WD-40?
Okay, yeah, that, and I don't have anything to add to that. Anything else on land use and zoning? Okay, moving right along. Finance?
So, kind of attaches to what Terry said earlier. Last night, I went to the it's county council, they're not commissioners anymore, and proposed that they decide whether they could loan us money.
That was Tuesday.
Was it Tuesday?
Been a long week already, but yeah, it was.
Okay. I'm getting more done this week than I thought I was. And proposed that they decide what they can do. I was advised just before that meeting not to bring up numbers, so I didn't. But we have numbers ready. And then they established that committee, that subcommittee with Tripp and the one that I don't know, Hamner,
Welch.
and the new county planner.
Welch.
Yeah. And so we're gonna meet, I think, a week from tonight and go over specific numbers. And the state statute, as you know, allows them to loan us money or grant us money or help us to get monies in other ways, but it doesn't compel them to do that. So we have the job of trying to persuade them to help us. They've expressed perfect willingness, and it's easy to say. So we're gonna try and acquire our first budget monies that way. If not, then we're looking at borrowing money from a bank. I think that would be our least preferred way. And so this all hinges on what that subcommittee decides to do.
Then on that same thing, some of the councilmen wanted numbers.
Yeah, they did.
Some didn't, some did. So
They did.
then when it was over, I talked to Hot and I gave him a copy of what we had established to this point.
Yeah.
What our costs and stuff are gonna be. So.
Yeah.
So they have an idea.
Okay, one other thing. You were gonna be so proud of me. I have an EIN number for Erda City. I went on the internet and
Dial up.
I got us employer identification number. And, so we're ready
If
to.
I could have a copy of one of
we're ready
those,
to go. I'll give you
scan it
this
in.
copy right here.
Okay,
Well, you can almost see that number.
thank
On the
you.
back page. The front page there, it shows all the things I had to fill out in order to get it. Physical address, I had to put my address, and because I live at that address, I had to put me as the contact person. So until we get a different address, our employer identification number is gonna be registered at my house.
So do we need to do a PO box?
They said on here, you can't do a PO box.
Yeah, we
It's a lot.
have to do physical address.
And since my address is Erda Way, seemed like a
Hard to argue with, isn't it?
logical.
Get that
I
scanned in.
think we could pick a bank next meeting as well, don't you think?
And just so we can talk about what they do have to offer, yeah? Yeah. So we have to have this in order to get a checking account. Sometimes when you open a checking account, you have to put money in it. I don't know if that's gonna be the case or not, we'll find out. And then we'll decide where we're gonna get the money to put in the account. So,
So what exactly are we moving to the business meeting next week?
well, I don't know, because we only have a meeting with that subcommittee next Thursday.
I mean, we could pick a bank. That could.
Yeah, we could, well, Terry and I feel like we ought to use Zions Bank.
They did the feasibility, so they have
Yeah.
all our monies and all that
Yeah.
already in their computer banks.
Yeah.
So maybe we should make Zion's Bank, agenda item
Yeah.
to approve them as
Okay.
our
And
council.
I'll find out the details between now and then of what they are gonna require.
Okay, anything else on finance?
Yeah. What about that bill for the engineer?
Have not received an invoice yet. Thought it was awful nice of them. The way I'm proposing that we pay that, invoice, which will come shortly, I'm sure. I think it makes a lot of sense to get checks from whoever wants to contribute. Make sure those checks add up to, I believe it's capped at $4,500, and send the individual checks to pay that invoice, all three adding up to satisfy the invoice. That way nobody's money ends up in anyone else's account for any reason. All right, we've got office and meeting places on here. Councilman Martin, you see any reason to keep this on our agenda going forward?
I don't think so until maybe further discussion gets brought up about it.
Unless they decide to kick us out of here.
Yeah, then
We're scheduled for this place through January, and I will ask to go beyond that when we get a little closer. All right. I'm going to remove that from our agenda going forward. Advertise for city clerk and treasurer. This one's kind of on me. It's kind of an awkward thing to advertise for something with no money or system in place to be able to hire anybody. But the simple fact of the matter, I've been so busy with this map, the lieutenant governor's office, and getting everything put together, I haven't had a spare moment to work on it. So, depending on what happens with the map this week, I'll put some effort into that, but,
I'll give you two numbers.
I'm
I've
just gonna
been
say
telling you
the
that
map
for 2
is-
weeks.
the map is my primary concern right now.
I'll
And
give
it
you,
should be all of our primary
I'll give you two numbers to call
concern. And what are these for?
for clerk and,
These are like potential candidates?
Yeah,
Okay.
that actually live in Erda. and I'll have to look them up on my phone. So I'll give them to you after this, because these people will make fun of me if I pull my phone out.
In front of you anyways.
Bless your heart.
We did before you got here, so
Oh, I see.
we've already covered that.
All right, we should look into, if there are minimums for time that we need to advertise, that sort of thing. It's kind of the same thing we're doing with
the attorney.
our attorney. All right, anything else on city clerk and treasurer, recorder? Okay. All right, here's a new agenda item we put on here because we've made council representative assignments. And so we're gonna have at least one council representative report here tonight. That's Scott Dubé. He's been at the Council of Governments meeting preceding this one.
Well, I had one too, with Bucky.
Yep, I know.
So I just came from that meeting. In fact, it wasn't even quite over. As I was coming down the stairs, they were talking about Erda. So I don't know what I missed. Probably making Erda a member of that Council of Governments, I suspect is what they were talking about. That was the next thing on the agenda when I left. This is the organization of cities and the county in Tooele County, and it also includes the school district. The new superintendent was there, and it has included the Army depot, and a colonel, somebody was there, and he asked to be removed from that. He said, he just pointed out that when this was organized decades ago, you know, the Army depot was the largest employer in the county, and now they hardly show up on a scope at all. So they agreed to take him off of it. But one of the things that here are the things that they talk about there. They talk about projects that are going on in the county that affect the county. We had a kind of a lengthy report from the Environmental Protection Agency and the work they're doing at Bauer. For those of you who don't know what Bauer is, decades ago they were smelting. They would bring in tailings and ore from a lot of different places. It was quite a big project, especially back in the 50s and 60s, and by the 1980s they had stopped functioning entirely.
It took decades to put the fire out.
Yeah, but there are all kinds of tailings out there, and there's problems with dust, and so what they're doing right now, they gave a big report on that, so that everyone knows how they're working on it. Uncomfortably enough, they admitted that the work they're gonna do this year will be done probably in the spring, but it's not the solution. It's just a Band-Aid to help stop some of the leaching and blowing that goes on there. The other thing they spent quite a bit of time on was this acronym WFRC, and I never got the definition of what that stands for, but it covers things like economic development. They have an economic development advisory board that meets quarterly. They have a board of health under this WFRC, and they have a transportation committee, which, by the way, one of the members there said Erda should be on that committee. So at their next meeting, which will be in January, they're going to restaff a lot of these committees because mayors change and councilmen change, and there's going to need to be changes. So it sounds to me like we're going to want to be on at least that committee, which helps get revenues from federal grants and from state revenues to help do work on roads in our community. Brian Johnson was here last week, and that's where he got 300 grand to work on the roads in Rush Valley. He's the mayor in Rush Valley, and tonight he happened to mention that their annual budget for roads was only about $50,000. So this $300,000 grant that they got will really help them. And Stockton got 400,000 out of this to work on roads. So we'll want to be on that committee. Let's see, and then they discussed a little bit about the ARPA. They had told us about that once before. This is further funding for new infrastructure and roads. And you can also use it for parks or projects like that. It sounds like we're gonna wanna be on that committee. As they were reading off the committee members on these different committees, man, Mayor Marshall from Grantsville was, he was on all of them. And I guess that probably is because he wanted to make sure if there was funds to be had, he wanted Grantsville to have some of them. So, let's see, then, the rest of it was more like just procedural matters that they had. So, that's the Council of Governments. My report.
Thank you, Scott. It's very good. I think we ought to move, and I'll add to the agenda, signing a WFRC representative from our council. Sound good? All right, emergency management.
Yeah, I met with Bucky Whitehouse, who's over the Tooele County Emergency Management. I think he wants to speak to us all, so maybe you can put him on the list for next week too.
Did you tell him, does he know when our meeting is?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll verify with him to make sure. But he was talking about like helping us with like if we had to do an emergency declaration, like there was flooding and all the other things that happened and the procedures and the paperwork to fill out and all that. And if we have to report there, have the city representative when they do a countywide thing, or like I said, his main thing is he wants to chat with us all, so.
Okay. I think we'll do that. Anything else? All right. What was the other assignment we made? Was it mosquito abatement?
It is. I can give you a report on mosquitoes. We got it under control for about the next 3 months.
Was that, who got assigned to that? Was it
That was
you?
me.
Okay. Was there a meeting? Do you know when the meetings are?
They do quarterly meetings.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's not a big deal. I have not heard when the first meeting is, but I'll watch for that. I'm sure it'll be after the first year.
Do they do a lot in Erda? Mosquito abatement. I know they do a lot in Stansbury.
They do a fair amount in Erda. Every little pond, every little stream, they come by and check them every 2 or 3 days and bait them, or every little standing pond of water they know of. I can tell you down a 6 Mile Ranch that they have, which is all in Erda. They have 4 people go down there 2 or 3 times a week doing mosquito abatement. So
Good to
yeah,
know. Good to know.
They do get out a lot. So
Okay. Anything else on that? No? All right. I think that wraps up our council representative reports.
I forgot something. There's gonna be a training on the 10th of February with that emergency management thing. That's what he brought up, so he'll probably talk more about that next.
All right. Comments from council members? I'll just open it up to the group here, and anybody has anything to say, let us have it. I notice we do have a sponsor with us here tonight. Would you like to say anything, or?
I guess just we've been working hard on our end, so whatever can be done to help assist the city council, we're glad to do.
Thank you very much.
We're connected with, wishing to get the map done as much as we can help with that. And investigating state code and statutes to make sure everything's in compliance, so if you'd like a report about that, happy to give a report about that.
Thanks for doing that.
Hey, this isn't all hands on deck, right?
We do have time constraints, so thank you.
Can I get your name for the minutes, please?
Brian Sorensen,
Okay. Heard your name before. Never met you though.
don't believe everything.
Okay. No comments from council members? All right. Chair moves that we adjourn this meeting.
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. I love these boring meetings. I couldn't handle anything but.